Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Diary of a Professional. It is Lou here,
Ashley.
and we are happy to have a wonderful guest, Kia Fiara Melendez. We will get into all of that, but of course, we have to get into our gratitudes. What you got, Asham?
So I just want to say I'm grateful for the people who take the time out to listen to us, um, the people who are really engaging in our episodes. I just got to do a quick shout outs to the New York, New Jersey holding us down. A lot in like Texas is listening. So
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
yeah, Texas and Georgia and Maryland. So I just want to say I'm grateful for the community we're building. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I am grateful. I'm going to call it a new season. Most people's new year kind of starts on, January 1st. I mean, I'm there too. I'm celebrating more independence from my people. But anyway, but February 1st is like my new year because, I'm a year older. And so I feel like it's just like, all right, it's smooth. It's not too bumpy. It's feeling like, definitely a lot of reflection, but happy I'm here. And it feels like growth and it feels like positive change. So I'm happy for that feeling. Some uncomfortable, but it's necessary for growth and change.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited to see what's next.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
And for me, I would say I'm definitely grateful for the families that I have worked with, both children and parents, actually. In particular, right, Black children of color and children of color. There is something so special in the dynamic that we constantly have together, where they feel seen, where I feel seen, right? So I'm really grateful for those families that I have worked with.
I love that. I love that. So we're going to get into everything about what you do, some, real conversations as
Yes.
usual. So Kiara Fiara is a therapist. You have so many. Do you want to run down your accolades? Because you got a couple, honey.
There's so many, what's the word I want to use? There's so many like intersectionalities,
Right.
right? To who
Yeah.
I am.
We'll
So
get
yeah,
into intersectionality soon.
yes, yes.
Uh.
And so, yes, I am a therapist, and I have also held positions in charter schools, in private schools, as school social worker or director of social and emotional learning, right? I am also a mother, a daughter. I love public speaking in particular, right? It's something that I really enjoy, providing knowledge to others as well. And so, yeah, and I'm a dope friend. Okay, I'm a dope
That's
friend.
great.
Please understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for being a friend.
Yes. I hear it in my head.
Had to.
I'm not going to sing it. Not going to do it.
No, but the
Not
tune
going to
is
do it.
there. The tune is there. The tune is there.
Yes. Um, so speaking of intersectionality, we wanted to talk to you about Afro-Latina identity and the different implications that come with it. So we wanted to start off, how do you define yourself in terms of culture, ethnicity, and nationality?
Absolutely. This is such a layered and great conversation. So thank you for inviting me to your space to be able to have this conversation with you both. Um, so I do identify as an Afro-Latina. When I think about my culture, right, I think about my culture being that of the African diaspora.
Mm.
When I think about my ethnicity, right, I'm Afro-Latina, right? And when I think about my nationality, I think about me just being, not just, but me being a Black American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm Black first, okay? I'm Black first. I was born and raised in the United States. And I grew up in the Washington Heights area of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I grew up speaking Spanish. My mother is a Dominican woman. My father is African American, right? Just to give you guys some context.
Right.
And yeah, that's really who I am. And I love me. Let me just say
Mm.
that. Okay.
Yes.
And I want all young people to love themselves as well. Um, Representation is so important. You know what I mean? So important.
Yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is. And I was wondering too, have you always seen yourself in that way as Afro-Latina?
So I think that's a question that I can answer in two parts, if that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Right? I think like growing up, right, it was definitely I had moments of confusion, right? Depending on, where I was or who I was with. I think about now as a 40 something year old woman, I've arrived and I am here, right? I can identify both sides of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think research and books and talking with family members and visiting the country of origin of my mother, right? Like visiting the Dominican Republic, speaking with my grandmother, right? Taking a Black Studies class in undergrad and in graduate school, learning more, right? But I do think that growing up, it was confusing in many ways. It was definitely confusing. There were times where people would say to me, "Oh, you're not Spanish." That word, "You're not Spanish." I'm like, right? Like at this big age, I'm like, Spanish is a language.
That's a language.
That's a language, right?
Right.
But really, what they wanted to say was, "You're not Latina," right?
Right.
And growing up in Washington Heights, what I would often see if I'm like walking into a bodega and things of that nature in the early 90s, what you would hear is Latinos bad mouthing Black Americans,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I would hear that, because I spoke the language, I began to question my own existence, right?
Right.
And I would have to come home and ask my mom, like, am I Black?
Wow.
Right? This is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is real. And she would look at me and say, absolutely, you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I do think internalizing the things that I was hearing was really, really hard growing up. And then, right, like with further education and conversations, I also think about like lack of representation, right? In the media, in institutions. I didn't often see
Mm.
people who looked like me in middle school or in high school,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And so it was definitely hard. It was definitely hard. Um, I didn't always see myself that way, and I never feel at this age that I have to choose. This is all of me, right? Because growing up, I remember
Right.
in middle school, I would be like code switching, right? I would speak
Ooh.
Spanish. I would speak Spanish in my home. I would
Mm-hmm.
speak Spanish when I heard other people speak Spanish. And then I would stop speaking Spanish when people would speak to me in English,
Okay.
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at a young age, that was still hard to navigate. Still hard to navigate.
See, like, going off a little tangent here, when you speak of representation, because, we see like when certain movies now come out, how it's important or whatever. But I've heard like people, if you watch, let's say a Telemundo or Univision, where certain people, that's the only kind of Spanish outlet that they have, but
Hmm.
no one looks like them.
Yep, absolutely. I'm sure you've seen in Telemundo or Televisión, right? The
Hmm.
Right.
newscasters, some of the shows that they have, the
Mm-hmm.
telenovelas, right? The
Right.
telenovelas, you see it hardcore there, right? It's like the lighter skinned woman is the one who has the husband and is in love. And if he's, doing something else or something along the lines that, may not be acceptable is like with someone of darker skin. And it's like, why does this particular darker skin individual need to portray this role?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And so it's deeply embedded, right?
Yeah.
Colorism, racism, all of it is deeply embedded in all the systems, all the outlets that we watch and partake in.
Man.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, what are the reactions you received when people assumed like you didn't speak Spanish, for example? I know you were mentioning about code switching. So how was it when someone did see you speak Spanish and they're like,
I mean,
oh,
I think it's different for, I guess it depends on the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think about, like being on the subway and hearing, a Latino talking about like something that I'm wearing or something along those lines. And I might turn around and say something, and they might be like, oh, you speak Spanish, right? And you speak Spanish well.
Ha.
Microaggression. I cannot, right?
Right.
But it's sort of like people are like questioning my Latinidad. Like right? Here we go.
yeah,
How
Yes.
Spanish are you? Or how Latina are you? And it's hurtful, to say one, right? It's hurtful. And then there are other times where I have had, like Black Americans, you in the hood, you walking out and they're talking to you, and I might respond in Spanish. And then it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
speak Spanish? Come here, mommy. Like, it's just Ashley's face.
Because that leans into a whole other stereotype with the
yeah,
whole,
It does.
maybe when you were just Black, you was loud and extra, but now you're the hot, sexy, fiery Latina.
You heard the undertones. Yep. You heard the undertones. Yep.
Now you're more desirable. Look at that.
The messages, right? The messages
Right.
that one receives.
Right.
And I think about, the young adults that are walking around and may not necessarily be critically conscious of who they are as of yet and are still doing their own inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important, right? Like for platforms like this, like yours, to be able to hear other people's stories, other people's narratives,
Right.
to get the information, right?
Yes.
To help them think.
yeah, yeah.
So I am like very curious because I feel like, here in America, I feel like every, country or whatever has their structure, has their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see as like racism and colorism, how might it differ, in DR? Like, is it the traditional racism that we think of? Is it some other definition? Is it colorism? And because of our construct, our American construct, you know what I mean? Like, help me make sense of it all.
But so the way I can make sense of it is that it's all intertwined,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's all intertwined. Racism, colorism, white supremacy, institutional racism, internalized racism, it's all intertwined. Okay. And so when I think about the United States and Latin America, um, first and foremost, like we know that racism exists globally, right?
Right.
And I think about, clearly the genocides that we're witnessing and things of that nature, right? Um, and when I think of Dominican Republic specifically, right? Because I'm speaking about my firsthand experience, we share an island. Let's be clear. Okay? We share an island with Haitians. Shout out to my Haitian brothers and sisters. Okay?
Okay.
Y'all share an island.
We
We
do, we
share an
do.
island. Okay?
Y'all make an island.
We make an island, dude. We make an island, right? And so in Dominican Republic, racism looks like not wanting to provide business to Haitianos, right? Like to Haitians. Not wanting to go to Haiti, wanting to prevent individuals of Haitian descent of getting jobs, right? Um, being very meticulous about who you are communicating with in places where you see a lot of Eurocentric tendencies. What do I mean
Mm.
by that? So if you go to a resort, right? Most of the resorts, I think many of the resorts, if I'm not mistaken, in the Dominican Republic are owned by Europeans. Okay.
Ah,
And so there, most people are speaking English, not Spanish. They're speaking English or they're speaking a European language of some sort, right?
Mhm.
And so in me speaking English with them, they will respond. But the minute I talk, ready? The minute I speak in Spanish, it's like, oh, you're one of us, like they say, de lo mío. You would think that because I'm one of you, that you would look out,
right.
you would serve a little better, or whatever the case is. That is not the case.
Really?
That is not the case. That has been my experience. Remember, I'm Black first.
Right.
Right? And so when you see these things happening, you're like, wow,
Hmm.
okay, right?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to waive your American passport? Like,
It's I wouldn't say I had to waive it, right? But then they start asking, right? Like, where are you from? Um, from what part of Dominican Republic are you? Um, and it's really like to get more information so that they can decide whether or not that they want to do the thing.
Oh,
That's
wow.
real. That's real. And that's all. And I'm just speaking from my experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is my experience. I'm certain that others have different experiences as well. And so it's definitely saddening, right? Because as a Dominican, if I decide that I am going to go to a resort, I expect the same service that you are giving to the white man standing next to me.
Ab-
Okay?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'm just trying to wrap my mind around like we are the same people. Like I thought I'd be getting a hookup. I thought I'd be you
And that's
know.
the thing, right? Like, I'm not even asking for a hookup, right? I'm just
Yeah.
asking, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Yeah.
saying, look out. You know what I mean? Just look out. That's all.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's definitely there. Um, and I think, in all honesty, you feel it. You feel it, right? Especially someone who is um critically conscious. That's what I can continue, that's the word I continue to use, right? But like, I'm just aware, right, of when I'm treated differently, of when someone says something that is a microaggression, or giving you stares, giving you looks. Like, that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
man. I feel like me as a Haitian, on the other side of it, besides, like, because I remember even in high school, like, I'm natural, my hair is natural. I just happen to have straightened it. But the times where I would get a Dominican blowout, I would have people be like, "Are you sure you're not half Dominican? Like, are you sure?" Like, in their mind, I think they think it's a compliment. You could just
Mm-hmm.
say your hair looks nice, but it's almost as if there's no way you can be black and have certain features that they consider nice, appealing, or the two just can't go together in their minds.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
When I think about
You
hair.
just have me, oh my gosh.
When I think about hair, because I think about, right, like my own journey, and I
Mm-hmm.
think about my daughter's journey, and I realize
Mm-hmm.
hers is also very different, right? Just to like share, right? It's the first time my daughter's 9. It's the first time she straightened her hair, and she's, curly girl,
Right.
Mhm.
and she straightened it, and it was like a whole different ball game,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And both are equally beautiful,
Right.
right? And that's the message that I wanted her to understand. Both are equally
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Girl, you ain't lying, because I got a
No,
10-year-old daughter, and that's a whole other conversation.
yep. Yep.
But
Absolutely.
But I'm happy. I feel like we're digressing, but I'm happy
Yeah.
that you ladies are instilling that in them, because I know I didn't have that kind of thought process. I'll speak for myself. I didn't have that thought process. I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, I got bad hair. I gotta go to the Dominicans because they know how to
Get you right.
they know how to get out every single kink possible. Like, no, we're gonna blow all of this out."
Yeah.
I didn't really accept my curls until my 30s, my
Yeah.
early my
Right.
30s. So I
Well
do.
into adulthood. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. Yeah, for sure.
It truly
Yeah.
is.
For sure.
Yeah. So what awareness would you like to bring to the conversation surrounding being Afro-Latina?
I think that I would love for everyone to understand that being Afro Latina and just race in general, while we know this is a social construct, right? Um, things are not always so black and white, right? That you have
Yeah.
to leave room for the areas of gray. And I think that when I think of young individuals still trying to figure out their racial identity, they have to stay curious about who they are, right? And ask the hard questions. Please, knowledge is power. Read the
Mm-hmm.
books, right? Read the books, especially by authors who look like you. I think that's really important, because representation, and this is something that we were talking about, right? Representation is really important. Um, you don't have to you don't have to settle for like one particular thing. We are so diverse, all of
Right.
us, right? In different ways. And we should be able to embrace that and not have to choose. We don't have to choose. We can
Yeah.
be both. And don't let nobody tell you you can't. Okay? You can be both. Yeah.
I love it. Can you tell us more about your revolutionary services?
Sure. So Revolutionary Services, you can follow me on Instagram, revolutionary_therapist. And so at Revolutionary Services, I provide psychotherapy virtually to Black and Brown folks, particularly, right?
Right.
Because access is important. And this really developed because I saw all the red tape, right? And all the systems that were really hard for people of Black and people of color to be able to access. And so, for someone like me, being able to provide those types of services to my community means the world. And it's really a privilege, right? And so, here I am providing therapy on a regular basis to Black and Brown folks. I think it's important for you to honor both sides of who you are, right? Both sides of who you are make you whole. And so I think it's really important for you to be able to do the research, talk to your family members, talk to your friends, continue to read, follow revolutionary therapists and the professionals, right? Like it's really important for that to happen, so that you are able to see people who you resonate with, right? And who have similar experiences as you do.
I love that. It's true. Because sometimes, hopefully in talking to family, it resonates with them, but some people aren't ready for that conversation. So you might be looking for your community. And here's Revolutionary Services,
Mhm.
ready
Yeah,
to have conversations with you.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Everything is better in community.
Yes.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah, yeah, for sure. This was
All
lovely,
right.
ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course, of course.
So, yes, everyone, please like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you think. Make sure you visit Kiara Fiara's page, and we will see you next time.